Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of the devlog of the Runes of Aereal. You might have noticed that it's been quite some time that I uploaded a video on YouTube, and that's just because, yeah, let's say life happened or something. As a solo developer, not always in control of what's coming at you. So I've been putting this project on hold for some small time. But that's also because I was busy doing a small side project called the Crazy Construct Effects. Some of you who are subscribed to my YouTube channel might have seen popping that up earlier. So that's also partly what I've been doing. And I'll come back to that later in the video here. But as always, those videos here are unscripted. So I'm just recording this, and everything you hear and you see is just live, not reading it from somewhere, or I haven't prepared it in any way. So just bear with me. But because it's been a long time since I posted something, I was thinking of like doing again some code development, for example, some live development, which is kind of cool because the persons who are in here for the development, the devlog itself, instead of the game itself, it might be useful to just see how I go and about doing this development of yeah, quite a large scale project with quite some event sheets and quite some sprites, etc., and quite some logic really. So that might give you an insight on how things work for me. It's just a way of working I like, but maybe it's something that you can also take away. All right. So what we're going to do, or what we're going to try to do in this session anyway, is work a bit further on one. I think it's basically the last trait that needs to be implemented, and it's a very interesting trait. So let me go in and start a journey. Let me abandon this journey and go for easy. I don't care.
Achilles
And
was a
then we have all
prodigal
of those
child,
traits here.
left on the doorsteps
So
of the
the
Kashan
foresight trait
monastery,
has already
where he was
been
taught the learnings
implemented,
of Master Asmuth.
and the foresight
He
trait lets
perfected
you
the
see
incantations of Beelzebub,
one
granting him great
turn
power
ahead in the
over
battle,
attacking spells.
and then the shapeshifter lets you change all of the cards in your hands, and the precognition lets you see with an icon on the map what you're going to face next. Is it a battle or is it something else? It's denoted with a question mark, and that's something else. Escapist gives you the ability to flee the battle. So if you see, okay, I'm losing, you can flee the battle, and then you can continue your journey. You can come back. Rage will double your damage. It's also been implemented. That was actually one of the first to be implemented. One of the first traits to be implemented, really. Time Traveler is a great one. You can go back to the start of the battle once per 12 turns. So that's also a great one to see, okay, I'm losing here, or I should have taken another tactic. You can go back to the start of the battle. So blind makes all of the creatures blind, which is also a handy one. A minimalist trait is for those people who like to play with less cards on their hand instead of with more cards on their hand. So standard, you will start with 16, with 20 cards, but if you have the minimalist trait, you have the ability to lose 4 more cards from your deck. So those cards that you do have on your deck get cycled into your hand much more frequently. So the peak ability will let you see the draw pile. So the top card on your draw pile, what are you going to draw next? And that can be handy if you have a card on your hand that lets you draw a card and you urgently need a more powerful card, for example. The innate ability was one of the last ones I added, and now you have the ability whenever you manage your cards that you can tag one as being innate. That means that this is the first card which is always drawn when your battle starts, which is very handy because you can pick some card, a free card, for example, with 0 energy, or a very powerful card to start off your battles. So you know you can weaken your enemies or slay an enemy from the start off. Healthy will gain an extra amount of health, an extra amount of maximum health. So by standard, you will start up with 50 health. So if you can lose health, of course, but if you gain health, that means that you could never surpass that 50 maximum. But if you have extra maximum health, that means that you can hope to go up to, in this case, 55. So it takes longer for enemies to slay you if you have 55, or if you start from 55, really. The shaman trait will clear all of the bad states being poisoned or on fire, for example. Um, and the petrification trait will allow you to petrify all of the creatures that can be petrified, because flying creatures like an imp or a bird cannot be petrified, right? And the last one, I kept it for last on purpose, is the summoning. And summoning will let you gain a sidekick. That's what it's supposed to do. So, but right now it's not been implemented yet, but I did make some preparations already. So let me go here and let me go into the tree here, and then we have this tree. In this we have these characters, and one of the characters, of course, is our hero. He is still called Achilles because, yeah, because the original name of the game. That's a nice. Did you know the original name of the guild was going to be Achilles, but a friend of mine advised me to change it, and Aereal came up. I say, okay, the runes of Aereal. That's a good one. So that's a little history about this game. And I already created something called sidekick. And sidekick, actually, it's a bird. It's a copy of the existing creature, which is a bird. But the only thing I did was I colored it, not exactly white, but some grayscale. So I took all of those animations here, which are in here, and I created them again, or I didn't create them again, I colored them using this bucket here, right? So that's what I did. The second thing I did, so let me search here for sidekick, is already have an event sheet for the sidekick itself. So that means that whenever the sidekick is created, we set it flipped and we set the animation to idle. Okay, and the last thing I did already in preparation, there's two more things I should show you. The first thing is that in the interaction sheet here, the interaction sheet, basically what it does, it handles all of the user interaction when the battle is happening. So we're not talking about menus here. We are talking inside the battle. Whenever a user does something with the mouse or with the keyboard, this interaction event sheeting is handling all of that. And one of the things which is in here is, let's say, yeah, there's like cheat codes for now. So card selection. So yeah, it's here battle interaction. So what we have here is all of those buttons at the top left when you're doing a battle. They're all in here, and what I've added already is the summoning, the sidekick summoning. You can see that here. It's this button with the bird on it on purpose because yeah, it's the white bird, right? And then what we do, if we left click this button, and the traits dictionary contains trait summoning, which means that we've activated it when the character selection or when upgrading a character, we selected it, and we're not currently executing a command. What we're going to do is we're going to check if the state value of the Summoning trait timer is 0. Only then can we click the button, and is the button also active, and it's also my turn. At that time we can do something, right? So as a reminder, these state values here, what that does is actually a function, and it goes in and checks a dictionary that contains states, and those states get saved to the user to the local storage every time something happens. So it's part of the save game, basically. And what it does, it gets from the save game the number of times a turn has passed. So this starts at, I don't remember by heart how many, it's at 12 or at 8 turns, right? And every time a turn happens, it counts down by 1. And only if the timer here has reached 0, it means we have passed 12 or 8 or whatever turns, then at that time we can click that button. Okay. Let me just drink something. So what does happen at that time? Some things need to happen. The first thing we do is we reset the state value because we should not be able to click that again if we do that. So basically what we're doing here is we call a function set state value, and this is the state value we're going to set, the summoning trait timer, and then we get something from the configuration summoning turns. So the configuration is a document here, a JSON file, and here at the bottom of this JSON file you can see summoning turns being 8. So whenever I change, I feel like changing this because, let's say, when playing the game, I feel like the summoning is a very powerful one. We shouldn't be able to do that each 8 turns. I can just change this configuration from 8 to 10 to 12 or whatever, just like I've changed the time travel to 12 or the escapist to 20, because I feel that they are a bit too powerful to have them return every 8 turns. Oh, I've left it to 8 for summoning. It's just, let's see, let's test the game with that and see how it comes up. Now in the interaction, what we do is we're going to basically set the state value back to that 8 in the configuration. So it resets the timer actually. Then we're going to increase a statistic. As you know, the people that follow the devlog will know that at some point in time, I don't remember when, I started implementing statistics. And basically, let me just go in here and go here and toggle a bookmark. Let me just go in there and go to that function and see what it does. Basically, increase statistics keeps track of 2 dictionaries. The one called statistics will add uh, a key of a statistics, and all of those keys are in here. That's all of the constants here, and it will add a value there. So whenever I register, something happens. For example, I use a blind scroll. Then that at that point where that blind scroll is activated, somewhere in the code there will be a function increase statistic with this stat blind scroll, and then if the blind scroll is not in the statistics dictionary yet, it will add it, or else it will just add 1. So we have 2 dictionaries here, one for the statistics and one for the journey, the statistics of the journey. So that means that you can keep track of this specific journey we've just completed, which we won or which we lost. I used this blind scroll like 7 times, for example. That will be part of that statistic journey. And also the statistics itself, the main dictionary statistics will keep part of that track of that statistic like forever, like since you installed the application, right? So you can see in my lifetime of using Runes of Aereal, how many times did I use that specific functionality, for example. But one of the reasons I did that, first because I'm a little bit of a number cruncher and I like statistics, um, that aside, it also helps me to check for achievements. So that means that every time a statistic changes, we can check from, okay, is it this kind of a statistics that changed? And then, for example, this one here, First Blood, this is an achievement that you get when you complete your first battle, right? It's one of the basic achievements like everyone will get. But how it works actually is the statistics, if that statistics, that battle done is done, and um, we get that statistics and it's bigger than 0, which is basically the first time you did it, and we don't have that achievement yet. So this achievement is not in the dictionary achievements obtained yet. And we're not like in a sandbox mode, for example, because in sandbox mode we don't need to check that. Game mode map means that we're coming from a map, not coming from a sandbox mode. And that means that only then we're actually playing the game, not in a sandbox kind of fashion. Then we should register that achievement, and that then register the achievement, and the achievements obtained, and you get the dialogue and stuff like that. So that's basically what those statistics do. So let's go back. I set the state value, I reset the turns timer, and then I increase the statistic to the use of the state summoning value here. And then I get to the crux of the challenge. The crux of the challenge is the command that actually will summon a sidekick. And also for those who follow from the beginning will know that this Runes of Aereal is based on a template I also make available on the Construct store. Basically, the Construct store's uh, card battling template, right? Card game template. So the essence of this template and the essence of Runes of Aereal, why it works, is because it uses a queuing system. Why does it use a queuing system? Because whenever you play a card, for example, the effect of playing that card means that possibly a chain of events is going to start. For example, if you have three enemies and you play a card that does damage to three enemies, there are already some things that need to start. First, we need to get rid of the card. The card goes to the discard deck, right? That's the first thing. The second thing is the first enemy gets damaged. The second one is the second enemy gets damaged. The fourth one is um, the third enemy gets damaged. And then depending on what happens to one of those enemies might die. So, for example, the first one dies. That's the fifth event that happens, the dying of the first creature. So, by just playing that one card, already five things need to happen in sequence, and that's the problem. So, you cannot check the health of a creature of which you do not know that it has been damaged. And you can only start evaluating new cards once all of those sequences have been done. So it's not like you're going to be able to draw a new card while one of those creatures is dying, because at that time we're in like the game is in like a state of, okay, what's the next thing that's applicable? Because whenever that enemy is dead, you cannot assign a card anymore, as long it's not officially dead, and the properties of that enemy is not marked it as dead, we cannot really play a card, because one of the things that playing a card does is check if an enemy is already dead. So this queue system, which let you not interact with the game until a series of action is totally complete in a certain sequence, is the core of this game. So every time you do something, you need to do something with the queuing of a command. So that means that every time something happens, a new command gets pushed to the back of the queue, and everything which is already in the queue needs to be processed first. So what I do here is in that command, I do the summon sidekick command. So you can have a number of parameters here in that queue command. I'm not going to bother you with all of those parameters because it would take us way too far. But do remember we have got already a vast number of those such commands. And we basically ignore the parameters. And if we then go look here in the command queue um, event sheet, you see all of those commands that can already be played here in the current version of the Runes of Aereal. And one of the things I added here was a string C summon sidekick. And the only thing I do here is on start of the layout, what I do is I map this string. So whenever the Q commands gets this string, this function needs to be executed. That's the only thing that does. So execute next command says, we flag it executing, we get some parameters, and then we call a function, and the function we call is based on this command, and these are these commands. So in essence, whenever the command engine here gets to the point where in the queue it finds something called C summon sidekick, it will call this fn summon sidekick. And this fn summon sidekick here is one of those functions in here. So there's already quite some functions, and you should really see it that there's a one-on-one mapping between one of those commands here and one of those functions, always. So whenever this summon sidekick happens, we execute this summon sidekick. And for now, it doesn't really do a lot of things. The only thing it does is it plays a sound. Summon sidekick. Let's go search for it. No, it's not here. It's summon sidekick. It's kind of a atmospheric effect because the summon sidekick will let the sidekick appear on the screen like not immediately, but like fading in, for example. But that's not done yet, so let's do this together. And then whenever that's done, we execute, you set this executing flag to 0. And this executing flag is really a really one important one because that is the flag, which can be 0 or 1, that checks if can a new command be started, yes or no. The fact that they all are in sequence and not in parallel is mainly due to this flag executing. So if I screw up, and I've been known to be screwing up from time to time, this executing flag will be set at an illogical place. And it will be set to 0 also in a logical place. And at that time, weird things can start happening in the game because all of a sudden, new commands can be started executing before another command has stopped. So this is a really important flag. And that's also why I log this in the console here, because in the past I've had quite some issues with that flag being set too early or being cleared too early. And then I wanted to see on the console, okay, where are we? When is this flag being set? And that's here. And FN summon cycle is just something I copy paste as a good practice to see if something goes wrong that where I'm at in the code. Okay. Um, so the next thing we need to do is, on top of what we're doing here, we need to summon a sidekick at a specific location in the battle. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to battle here, and then I want to summon a sidekick somewhere around here. And in preparation of this video, I already made like this kind of spawner here. This is like yeah, the spawner, let's see, let's how do I explain this? A spawner is like a hidden object. And that hidden object, the x and y coordinates of that hidden object are used inside the game when creating an in-game object. And there are quite some here. For example, this is my screen is not reacting for the moment. Why? Because yes, so it must be that those are here on a different. Let's see, where are they? No. So this is a live recording, right? So I don't remember. This should be on the spawner somewhere. Let's say lock. Um, lock. Lock. So where are we? On characters? No. On HUD. Yes. Endpoint, for example, is also one of those points where I basically say this is where the hand, the player hand is, and where centered around all of those cards need to be placed. So this is the hand point and the X and Y coordinate there. So if I were to decide, okay, I think this is a bit too high or too low, I can just move this hand point a bit up, a bit down, and everything would still work. And those cards would be spawned a bit higher or lower. The same thing happens here. For example, these enemy spawners here. Those are the 4 points along the playing field here where those enemies can be spawned, 1 to 4. And you can see here we can have a flag that says, okay, this one is occupied, you need to randomize and you need to pick another one, not the first one. Or, and this is the position, which is 1, which is 2, 3, and 4, just to denote, okay, where we're going to place that creature. So this are examples of spawners, and right here I have also added an extra spawner. So let's lock all of those things up again except for the spawner. Too many layers. So here we are, this spawner, and it doesn't have any instance variables. I really don't care. I really care about the X and Y coordinate of this thing. So I'm thinking of spawning this creature right here. So that's the next thing we're going to need to do. We're going to do that here. So what we're going to do, very simple, is create a new object. Of create object, here we are. And what are we going to create is sidekick, this one here. And then where are we going to create? There is a characters layer. That's what it's supposed to go. And here, that's is where the spawner comes in. I have the sidekick spawner X coordinates and the sidekick spawner Y coordinate. So it doesn't have a hierarchy, it doesn't have a template, so I just click OK. So that's been done. So now let's see what that looks like. And the easiest way to do that is by using the sandbox, of course. Let me open up the sandbox. That's it. And let me start the game using the sandbox. Voila. And now I already have this setting here called sidekick. So the only thing is what it did is randomize 2 enemies. I have started deck of Achilles here. I have some traits, among which, and that's important, the summoning trait. That's the only way this button is going to be active. And what I also did is I reset this trait counter to 0. So we're not starting at 8. We don't always have to play 8 turns before it gets activated. By setting this to 0, the trait will be active immediately. So we can just test it immediately. So we can start the game.
Fight.
Okay, I see that while I'm recording this video, the fact that I'm recording is really clogging up my system a bit because I'm using a new software to record. So apparently that's not so advantageous. Anyhow, I'm gonna have to deal with it. Here, what we see here is summon a sidekick. I should really remove not implemented yet because we're doing it now, but let me do that. Voila. So immediately I see some issues. The fact that it comes at the state here is pretty good because yeah, it listens to the X and Y coordinate, but it's flipped upside down. That's probably because I introduced a bug. Let me go here to the sidekick, and then when created, sept flipped, but it's flipped vertically. So set mirrored is horizontally. Okay. So that's the mistake I made. So let's test that again. And call in the setting here, sidekick, and start.
Fight.
All right, let's test this again and click the button. and it works. So you hear the sound playing normally. I hope the recording is including the sound of the computer, and then you see this sidekick flappering here, which is great. So next thing we're going to do is I'm going to add an effect when that sidekick is coming in, is being spawned, let's say, and which disappears, of course, when that sidekick has done spawning. So with that, it's a good showcase on how to use the crazy construct effects, of course. Yeah. Um, so one of the things I did is here I already started the crazy construct effects creator. We're going to create a small effect that basically is about the size of this creature, and it's like going to tingle in a little effect that makes it nice, so it can work. So notice this very low FPS, and the only reason why this FPS is so low is because I'm currently recording my screen, unfortunately. But normally when you create your own crazy construct effect, this is easily 60, and it doesn't really drop very fast. So please ignore the FPS. It's not representative of the performance of the crazy construct effects. So just as a demonstration of what I'm going to do here. So the first thing I'm going to change is I'm going to change this from a spark. I'm going to change it into a star. You see? And instead of doing something vertical here, I'm going to randomize the X to, let's say, 50. You see that it's randomizing in an X way. So that means that the particles are spawned somewhere on a plane of 50 particles, and it's just random at this plane where a particle is being stored. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the speed to 0. See what happens as they stay on that same plane. Here's what you can see, that this is the plane they get started from. This is already a nice effect, I think. So what I'm also going to do is I'm going to change the Y. So that means that they are spawned there in that kind of way, right? So I think it's too small. So let's pick 100 by 100. 1100. Mhm. Still too small. That's 200. Now that's too big. 150 by 50. So, and now we're going to change the rate to 100 instead of 10. And the particle size should be 10, for example. No, that's too small. Let's say 30. Yes, okay. Um, okay, and now the timeout of that particle needs to be 1. The timeout is how fast the particles will disappear. And what I'll do is I'll set the speed randomizer to 5. Mm, Let's do 15. So we have an effect. Okay, that's great. And now I want like this yellowish effect. Let's see. Yes. So this is already great. And maybe I'll add 20. That's already great. Yes. So what I'll do now is I can go to a second particle and I can clone the first particle. So, and then what I'll do is I'll set it to a lighter color, like this, for example, maybe, and maybe change the hue a little bit. Yes, that's it. So that's already good. Maybe I want less of those particles, which is great. Okay, and then yes, let's do a horizontal and do that. So we're going to have a sign, a horizontal sign, and I'm going to change that medically to 200. So to see what that really does. So instead of 300, I do 50. So the reason why we do that, or why I do that, is that the edges are not so exact, you see. And it does that in a certain time period. So we do it like this. Okay, I like that. Maybe we want a blur. No, that's a bad effect. So crazy construct effect is really great to instantly see how it looks really, and you can tweak around and how this effect. Okay, so I'm pretty satisfied with this effect. So let me just call this Rua for Runes of Aereal spawn sidekick, for example. So what I can do then is I can click construct JSON, and it creates a JSON uh, object, not an object, it's like JSON text basically. And I can copy this to the clipboard. And now we can go back to the Runes of Aereal right here. And I go over there. And the only thing I need to do is open this CCE effects JSON file. And I can go entirely to the bottom. And I know that this is the end of the previous effect. So I can enter a comma and then paste. And then I see that this ROA spawn sidekick, sorry, has spawned. So we can check the validity of the JSON file and it works. Okay, great. So now what we need to do is we got to go now into the command function, and next to creating that object and I just moved it towards here because it needs to be done before we stop executing, of course. What I need to do here is also call that effect, and it's very simple to do. So it's a function, and it's called CCE create effect by name. Next, so you can place an effect in different ways. And for that, you have different placement modes. So the absolute placement mode means it will listen to the X and Y coordinate you pass along here. And all of the other ones will listen to the X and Y coordinate of the target you pass along here. That's the unique ID of the target you pass along. For example, when attaching it to an enemy or to a spaceship or to a bullet or whatever. So you can do it relative to that, but then it's not pinned. And the other three, pin with angle and pin with angle reverse, are really pinning it to that target object. But for us, for this, it's really pretty simple. We just say absolute, and then we also say sidekick kick spawner dot x, so at the same place, sidekick spawner dot y, right? So we don't have a target here, and we can do this on the effects front layer here, and then we need to see row spawn sidekick. This is the definition name, no parameters, and then I can pass along a tag, for example, spawn sidekick. So this is optional. This is for if you want to reference that in another function like stop or start. So this is spawn sidekick. Voila. So let's see if that works. Sandbox again, go in there. Sidekick, let's start the game.
Fight.
Okay, let's check. Okay, that works. But of course, what we see here is that it's not disappearing. It keeps on playing because I did not change the runtime. And the runtime is here, this set to 0, meaning that if this is set to 0, it keeps on running forever. If you set it to a number higher than 0, it will last for so many seconds. So that's is what we need to change here, basically. We could change it here in the interface and then copy paste it again, but we might as well change it here in that crazy construct effects JSON file here. So you see here, this runtime, you have it for each particle. So you can have up to 10 particles here in the crazy construct effect. So right now we only have two, the white stars and the white star and the yellow stars. So here we can change it to 2 seconds, and here we can change this one also to 2 seconds. This might differ. For example, here you might say 1.8 seconds and the other one 2.2 seconds, so they stop spawning somewhat further apart. But let's not do that. Let's just keep it pretty simple here. And let's check here sidekick again.
Fight.
See, so it lasted about 10 seconds and then it faded away, which is great. 8 turns to go. It should really fade out.
Petrified.
Hmm. That's something that's not working quite well. So what I have to look in that a bit later. So this is working quite well. The only thing I noticed I wasn't really happy about is that it was really coming forward quite a bit. So what I want to do here is also change the opacity of things to, let's say, 50 or something like that. Here also 50. Again, I could also change it in the interface to see what it looks like. In fact, let's check it out. 50 is a good one. 50 is also 50. I think that's better. I think that's better. So okay, so that's already done. And the last thing I'm going to do to make this a bit more fluffy is I'm going to fade in the the uh, the animal, the sidekick. So what I'm going to do instead of when creating it, I'm going to say sidekick set opacity to 0. And I might as well do that here in the sidekick. Here, when created, we set the opacity to 0. So by default, it won't be showing. But command functions here. What I can then do once it is created, I can say sidekick tween. Doesn't have a tween, does it? It has a sign, but this doesn't have a tween. Great. So what we're going to do is we're going to go here, and then we're going to have another behavior tween. Okay, that's that. And then we just go sidekick, and then we tween uh, tween one property. Here we are, and then we say, okay, this tween sidekick spawn, and then we say opacity and value 100%, and I want it in 1.5 seconds. So destroy, of course, and then voila. Up. Test that again. Sidekick start.
Fight.
There we are. Nice. So there it is. It's now spawned. So that's it. Um, I hope you gained a few insights and how the project is structured, how it works, and how what my way of working is here. I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope you also enjoyed the way of working of the crazy construct effect. So if you're interested in also integrating that into your project, you can see how easy it is once you've copied over the event sheet of the crazy construct effects and all of the objects of the crazy of construct effects. It's really easy to integrate it by just copy pasting that JSON file and just tweaking it towards your needs. Imagine if you were to create that particle effect, the combination of those two particle effects inside your game, you would be at it for quite some time, a lot longer than what I spent in the crazy construct effects creator, because you would have to test things and stuff like that. So there we are. Without further ado, this was my devlog episode of today. As always, if you haven't already, please like, please subscribe. It helps my channel very much. And also, if you haven't done so already, you can please wishlist the Runes of Aereal in the Steam store. It also helps me to create some visual, some let's say traction in Steam, and to have some um, let's say added marketing from Steam if you do add those wish lists. It helps a solo developer a lot. So thank you for watching this totally unscripted video. It's everything you saw was real life. See you next time and keep hanging in there. Bye bye.